Performance SUV. Two words that will already have the more opinionated among you looking down your noses at the screen. For years now, the concept of powerful, jacked-up wagons has been maligned, deemed by many as too compromised to hold proper driver's car appeal. Why would you buy one when you could have a fast sedan or a sports coupe? The thing is, people want SUVs now. They want practicality that they can use every day, and clever engineers have worked feverishly to make the fastest versions of these family haulers drive like normal cars. One such SUV is this, the Mercedes-AMG GLC63 S, a mid-sizer with room for 5 people and their luggage that happens to be powered by a 4-litre twin-turbo V8, producing 375 kilowatts and 700 newton metres. We're at the point where manufacturers say their latest super SUVs are so good that even performance purists have nothing to lose when comparing high-performance high-riders with their conventional counterparts. This GLC has all-wheel drive and weighs a hefty 1,935 kilos, but it sprints from 0 to 100 kilometres an hour in less than 4 seconds. If there's ever been an SUV that has the potential to change people's minds about what this type of car can do, it's probably this one. So to find out, we've brought it to Australia's driving nirvana, Tasmania. To the enthusiast, this island in Australia's southeast is most famous for the Targa Tasmania, a week-long race held in late April every year. These fast and unforgiving roads become a hunting ground for Porsches and Lamborghinis and other priceless exotics, which makes them the perfect place to answer the big performance SUV question. Are these vehicles really good enough to deliver ultimate driving thrills? Of course, the performance SUV concept is hardly new, and this car does have a raft of modern contemporaries like the BMW X3 M40i, the Audi SQ5, and even the Porsche Macan Turbo. But none of those are what you would really call a direct rival because they've all got 6-cylinder engines, whereas this car has a twin-turbo V8. Now, until the Jaguar F-Pace SVR arrives, this will be the only mid-size SUV with a V8, and that means that nothing is coming even close to its big headline number, that 3.8 seconds 0 to 100 time. When you consider that this car is quite a lot heavier than the C63 with which it shares this engine, they've got the same 375 kilowatt and 700 newton meter outputs, you can see how much of an advantage that all-wheel drive system is in getting it to 100 so quickly. The C63 and C63 S are both slower at 4.0 and 4.1 seconds, so that makes this king of the hill if you're talking about C63s. Now, the key to its monstrous acceleration is in its drivetrain, which is effectively the same as the one found in the E63. It's got a 9-speed automatic gearbox and 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive, which is AMG's fully variable system that can send up to 100% of torque to the rear wheels. Now, to get the maximum off-the-line purchase, it obviously runs in all-wheel drive mode. And for those of you wondering, there isn't a drift mode in this car, but it does have race start, and that's how it achieves that number, and it is brutal. Obviously, the experience is fairly dominated by the ridiculous noise of that V8 and this bimodal exhaust. It is properly loud and seriously addictive. It's got this bassy, low gruffness from idle, and the sound gets better and better all the way to the red line. So when you give a car this bulky and heavy, this much power, obviously you need to give it the electronic systems to match, and there's no shame in saying that you left the systems on in a car like this because you really need them to get the most out of it. It is quite a handful, but the systems are so deftly calibrated that you actually feel like you've got the car under you at all times, even when you're right on the limit of grip. Now, this car has quite a few different drive modes. It's got a comfort mode, a sport plus mode, and AMG's race mode, as well as an individual setting which allows you to customize each parameter to your liking. You have options for the steering, for the drivetrain, That includes the engine as well as the gearbox, which has its own manual mode. Then the suspension has 3 different settings of stiffness as well. It actually feels faster when you've got the suspension set into its comfort mode and you have the rest of the systems dialed up, which you can do. Keeping the GLC63's air suspension in its softest mode helps the body of the car to settle, especially into braking areas and through the corners of these bumpy, rutted targa stages. It's not exactly soft, but it is marginally more compliant than a normal C63. The cleverness of this car's electronics extends to the calibration of its gearbox, which is really smart, especially in Sports Plus. It's able to judge the attitude of your right foot and also how much braking pressure you're giving it coming into corners. It'll drop down gears before corner exit so that you're always in the right part of the rev range when you step on the accelerator. It's always tempting to put the car into full manual mode, which you can do, and it's great to have that ultimate level of control, but I'm pretty sure that this car would actually be fastest just left to its own devices. The good thing about that is that it leaves your hands free to grip this steering wheel gamely, which you really have to do when you're on it. There's so much work that the front end is doing, and the steering wheel has this sensation of heftiness coming through it. You've got to reef it around and manhandle it, and it's not exactly scalpel precise, but it is accurate and it will turn in. It's got massive grip and huge stopping power, and in some ways that kind of bulky, brawny feeling is a big part of the GLC's character, which is something that I personally think it's dripping with. I guess the surprising thing about it is that it doesn't fall apart when you try and ask this much of it, and that's quite confidence inspiring when you're really pressing on. So why would you choose a GLC63 when you could have a normal C63 or a C63 wagon, which gives you at least the boot space that this car has? And I guess a lot of that comes down to versatility. This car does actually ride better in its comfort mode than the normal car does, which makes it a better tourer if you do need to take it on a holiday. It's also got a better back seat with more room and more comfort, more headroom, all those sorts of things that come along with having an SUV. AMG's done a good job in the details of making this cabin feel more exclusive than a regular GLC. You've got carbon fibre finish on the gauge cluster and on this centre console and around the rest of the interior, and these AMG sport seats that hug you nice and tight. You can have regular GLC seats trimmed in an AMG finish if you want to, if you prefer a car that's going to be a little bit softer still and better for long distance touring. It is worth mentioning the road noise inside from the 21-inch tyres because there's a lot of it. And though it probably goes without saying, that V8 does have an unholy appetite for fuel. It would be wrong of us to try and say that this car is as good or better than a normal C63 when it comes to ultimate driving precision. But there is something about the way that this car puts a smile on your face that is properly addictive. It's such a rocket ship and it makes such a good noise, and it does have versatility and practicality. If you needed to load up the family and go on a holiday, you could use this to have some driving fun, but also to get there in style and in comfort. The GLC63 S is a lout of a thing, but it's that mischievous side that makes it so enjoyable. AMG has left the GLC's everyday utility intact, yet engineered its part in such a way that even on demanding roads like these, you can't help but be entertained by it. I think the harshest performance purists will be able to admit that there's a place for cars like this. I think the reason that this car feels special is because at this point in time, it is the only mid-size SUV with a V8 in it. And in some ways that makes it really lovable. It's got a point of difference. It is unique.